All right, let's get started. This is COM 400. We are looking at qualitative research, and we're going to look at five major areas that are different between interpretivist research and quantitative research, which is positivist research. So let's look at the first one. The first major difference is the role of the researcher. Now, the positivist researcher strives for objectivity and to be away from the research. The interpretivist researcher is a part of the research. They're part of the whole experiment and is not removed from it. So they are an integral part of the data. The second difference is design and how things are designed. The positivist designs a study before the study begins, so you have all of your plan ahead of time. The interpretivist researcher's design evolves during the study. You don't really know what you're going to find, so as you find things, your research changes to some extent. The third thing is setting. And the positivist researcher tries to limit contaminating, confounding variables by having the investigation in controlled settings. So that would be a laboratory. And if you know about typical laboratories on television, there are people with white coats and maybe masks and other things to make sure they're not contaminated and they don't contaminate the experiment. So that would be the positivist. The quantitative researcher does not want to bias the data. The interpretive researcher conducts research in the field. There is much less control. The fourth difference is measurement instruments. The positivist research has measurement instruments that are apart from themselves. To measure something, maybe you would be using a thermometer. Maybe you would be using something that catches brain waves. But it's different, it's apart from the researcher themselves. So, the interpretive researcher, then the instrument is themselves. They are taking observations, they're writing them down, maybe they're viewing them on video, or as part of a focus group, whatever it is, the researcher, once again, is the instrument. And so, very different from the positivist approach. The fifth thing is theory building, and there's a different approach between positivists, quantitative researchers, and interpretivists, qualitative researchers, and that is how they build theory. The positivist uses research to build theory. You'll realize in our term paper, you are actually working toward helping build theory. The justification looks at the beginning part, the justification looks at justifying your study. That's the introduction. Has this ever been done before? So it's trying to push theory beyond where it is now. And then the whole idea of your research is to find out something new about research, about that theory that hasn't been done before. So that is the way a positivist approaches theory building. The interpretivist researcher develops theory as they are going along. They are going to be looking at things and saying, as things are, and saying, how do these work together? And that's one of the reasons that some people will say qualitative theory is for your basic theory. When something has not been researched before, it's exploratory. And if something has been researched before, you have the basics of it, that's when you do quantitative. And that's the way I see it. Qualitative and quantitative are very good. Sometimes qualitative also, I believe, can be used when a theory has been researched down the line as well. So a difference in how they approach a theory building. So the interpretive researcher develops theories as part of the ongoing research. An additional difference is that qualitative researchers use what they call a flexible questioning approach. Now, when you did your survey for class, the group project, you wrote 10 questions, and those questions couldn't change from one person to the other. Everybody had the same questions. And that's good for certain things. The qualitative researcher has a protocol, general areas to talk about. But if somebody says, well, actually, the way I look at it, and they can explain something, and that researcher then can delve into those other areas very deeply. That's one of the exciting things about qualitative research. But you don't have that with quantitative research. You have a strict set of questions that you have to answer. Once in a while, you'll have a question, a filter question, and it'll say something, and then depending on that, you might go into different directions of questions. But they're pretty rigid, pretty disciplined in the number of questions they have. So quantitative people use a static set of questions, while quantitative people may use a flexible set of questions. That flexible set of questions is sometimes also known as a protocol, an outline of areas, but you can jump off to many, many different places. We're going to stop right there, and we will pick up next with reliability and validity in regard to qualitative research. Can you even have it with qualitative research? Well, we'll look at that.